Wayne Shipley had a little bit to do with the film, but not nearly as much as these guys. Any questions that you have? I realize a lot of people needed to go because of the weather and things like this, but if you have any questions of the cast, the crew, if I were to introduce everybody who had a significant contribution to this film, we would be here until we had 12 inches of snow, which would probably be tomorrow morning or whatever. What I do need to say, however, is that this is a product of a huge number of people who lent their talents, their expertise, their commitment, mostly for nothing, you know, just to be a part of a project like this. So I can't, it was an honor working with so many wonderful, wonderful people, many of whom are here, some of our crew and everything spread out over here. So if you have any questions, now's a good time. If you're interested in visual effects, Craig, that's the gentleman right there who's responsible for taking Montana and bringing it here to Maryland. The film, for the most part, was shot about 20 minutes from here. We did shoot in the various other locations all within an hour of here. And then we shot in Montana. And the footage came here, and Craig integrated the footage into the film. So if you have any other questions, again, if I were to introduce everybody, we'd be here all night. Jill, come on up. Jill is... Anybody? Where's Patty? Is she here? Anyway, we'll entertain questions. If anybody has anything, we will reveal all at this particular point.
Hey, 2 questions.
It's all smoke and mirrors. Right?
2 questions. What'd you shoot on?
What did we shoot on? Where's Jeff?
Jeff's in the other room.
Jeff. We shot 10 different formats, right?
One format, we had 10 different cameras.
Right, 10 different cameras. All the way from a Red, which is a high-end camera, down to a $300 DSLR GoPro, actually.
Yeah.
For some of the riding sequences, I was on the horse holding a GoPro, or we had a GoPro mounted to someone else. And if Jeff Herberger or Gary Wheeler are here, if you have any specific cinematography questions, those are the guys to talk to.
What was the supposed kill shot? How many yards?
How many yards?
That was supposed to be about 300 yards, which is a legitimate shot with a Henry.
Yep.
I put one, actually with that rifle over there, I put 1 out of 5 on an 18-inch square at 300 yards off the rest with that rifle.
With that
So
rifle?
it's a legitimate shot that could have been done by a very good marksman.
And LaDon is a good one.
And nasty.
Wayne Fletcher is our armorer. He not only performed in the film, but he also provided the vast majority of weapons in the film and made sure, 1, we were safe, and 2, we were authentic. Nobody can ever find anything wrong with the weapons that we use in the film, even if you're the history police. We don't, I think we can say that, right, Wayne?
Yeah, we don't have
Everything
any
is
12-shot
authentic.
6-shooters.
What John Wayne's?
Other question?
What parts of Montana did you shoot in?
We shot around Craig.
Bannock was the,
Bannock, the Montana footage was in.
Bannock, so what you saw at the beginning, open credits, those shots of the old town, that was Bannock. Where else?
Bannock Ghost Town, Buffalo Jump, place called Buffalo Jump, some of it was in Yellowstone, a bunch of places I had never heard of before, but they're really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
So around Bozeman, Montana, and down toward Yellowstone in that area.
We probably are going to take this to Bozeman sometime in the not too distant future to show it. Maybe bring in Dave Staney, whose Montana song I picked up on halfway through production. I had to have it, so I got a hold of Dave and said, Dave Staney, and if anybody who's into that, the kind of music, he was great. He works every weekend, so he agreed to allow us to use it. Yes, sir.
Were you aware of the history of Big Sky and the background behind it?
Oh yes, yes. We did our when I was writing this, I I did an awful lot of research, and I threw in, the branch probably wouldn't have been named Big Sky, but I figured it was a reference that some people had, so I just threw it in just to create references for people who aren't necessarily steeped in Western lore or Western history.
So it wasn't named Big Sky, but it was the largest cattle ranch.
Right.
What is now Big Sky was the largest cattle ranch in Montana in the 50s and 60s.
I did in fact run across that. We pull on from several things. In fact, Granville Stewart, Granville, raise your hand there. That's Robert Alexander. His character was very prominent, and I asked Robert when he came on board, I said, well, what do you want to call yourself? And he had done the research, and he said, I want to call myself Granville Stewart, who in fact was a real deal. Go ahead.
He was definitely the real deal. He came to Montana through doing gold digging out in California and couldn't get up to another location during the, I forget the location. He was going up through Utah, but they turned him back. And he went up into Montana, stayed up there doing silver mining. He did a little bit of everything. He was a merchant, he was a cattleman. Was an ambassador to Uruguay at one point in time in his life.
And how many children did he have?
He had 10 children. He was married to a Indian woman. They had 10 children. Big family. One of the sad things I think what about him when the Easterners started to come back out west, there seemed to be a thought process that the mixed marriages were something that were not really looked upon as being very good. And when his wife did die from consumption, he actually disowned all his kids. He thought it was holding him back. So that to me, that struck me as a time when the whole thing about race relations and things must have really gotten started. Because before that, everybody was happy with whatever anybody did.
Other questions? Yes.
How much did your story evolve as you were shooting, and did the characters interacting with the story change its direction at all?
We were constantly making changes and flipping things around. It always happens when you start out with a basic storyline, and we discovered, and part of the discovery process while you're writing is to discover discover how people do in fact relate, interact. With Eric Roberts, having to bring him in, his part had to be nailed right away because we knew we'd have him for 3 days, and that was it. So we couldn't bring him back in and change much. But the evolution of it, once we had the basic storyline, there were some significant changes in relationships. And in fact, when the story first came out of here, Maggie's character was in fact Matthew. And I kept thinking that really, women generally don't like Westerns. Generally they, because I guess they're really macho and things like the genre is pretty macho. So I thought, no, I think I'm going to turn Matthew into Maggie and kind of loosely base her on Lady Macbeth. I taught Shakespeare for quite a few years, and I was always fascinated with the Lady Macbeth character because she never gets her due. She dies off stage and all that kind of stuff. So I started out with that basic idea and then developed Maggie. Of course, that was the most significant change from the initial treatment to the final shooting script. And there were lots of little things. We were constantly working on that kind of thing all the time, changing lines, pulling lines down, trimming. We started out with a mini-series, and we still ended up with a fairly long film. But we felt that we had cut it as much as we could and still maintain the integrity of the characters and have resolution for the characters.
How long was your production of your post?
We shot the shootout in 2.5 years ago. Because I had to know, and our cinematographers had to know that when we turned all this footage from 5 different cameras in, that Jeff Herberger, our editor, as well as our director of photography, could in fact, 1, cut it together, and 2, make sure that it looked like one single entity. So the continuity, the visual continuity would be there. And once we discovered we could do that, then we moved on to the rest of it. We shot for how many days, Joe?
24.
We shot for 24 days over virtually a 2-year period.
23 months, yeah.
How long did you post it?
Post-production, we were cutting as we went, so the final post-production was a matter of a few months. We did, in fact, take our production sound to Studio Unknown. I got to plug those guys. Kevin Hill is the owner of that, and he did the post-production sound. He had his guys do the Foley work that we needed. We have some production sound, obviously, but in some cases, because of shooting around here, BWI, we're constantly faced with airplanes and motorcycles and you name it. We were faced with the funeral scene, beautiful scene. You know, the work in the funeral scene, especially the Kate and Cy scene, is such a heartfelt piece. But we were hearing motorcycles, we were hearing people chopping, we were hearing cars, we were hearing pneumatic planes every 5 minutes. So we brought our performers back into the studio, and we ADR'd the work. We actually had them re-record. They did a beautiful job. You cannot tell that it wasn't production sound for that. The whole gunfight, we added density to the sounds of the guns going on.
Let me interrupt and speak for this. I know these guns. I know what they sound like when they're shot with their original ammunition. And my wife has told me, shut up, because I'm not allowed to comment on the TV shows and westerns where the sounds are wrong, the sound of the gunfire is wrong. And this studio really got it correct. This is what, if you were out there and we were shooting out in the field, that's what they sound like. So they did a wonderful job, much better than a lot of high-dollar Hollywood productions. So I want to interrupt and tell you.
We spent quite a few days there. Aaron was there to re-record that scene and several other scenes, and sound is probably the final frontier for independent filmmakers. Trying to come up with sound that is in fact that really works for you, that becomes a part of it. Of course, then we brought in a wonderful composer who did the score for the film, a young Polish composer in California on a fellowship, agreed to score the film, and his work is stunning, and in fact, it's so good, Mike Moore, one of our producers, became the producer of that CD, and it's just lovely music, I think.
Hey,
other questions?
Yeah, your friend William Powell, Inside Acting Radio.
There's William Powell, who's going to, I hope, say nice things about it.
The Indian character, Charlie, you gonna give him a spin-off or something?
Charlie Brokenhand is actually an actor named Raw, R-A-W Liba. Raw has done a lot of television work. He was last seen in the Sandra Bullock film called The Heat. He gets shot. I can't remember the whole sequence, but Raw is a great guy. He called me and says, I hear, in fact, was Virginia still here?
No, she's gone.
Okay, our lawyer, Virginia Riker, is also one of our people involved closely with this. She had worked with Raw before and said, gee, I want to put you in touch. Raw called me and said, gee, I want to be in a Western. I want to be in a Western. And I didn't realize that Raw was voted some years ago one of the 20 most sexy guys in the world or something like that. So we don't need any sexy guys in a cowboy movie. But anyway, Raw came in down, we talked back and forth. He was in Philly at the time. And we played, I said, look, you're a Crow or Osage Indian. He did the research. Pat, my wife, had the jewelry made for him and did the costume for him. he came up and said, gee, I'll have to take my shirt off. I think, you know, because he's built, obviously, rather nicely.
And what do all the women say?
Oh, the women. So the opening log tossing sequence is done shirtless for obvious reasons. And he is the nicest guy in the world. He has a little wife about this big who tells him what to do all the time.
He went on kind of quick though in the movie though.
Well, in fact, we've been talking off and on. See, wouldn't it be great to do kind of a cowboy buddy movie between, you know, kind of a Lone Ranger Tonto, except without the mask at all, with Cy and Raw, or Cy and Charlie, because they personally got along so well. They were great when we were doing the climbing sequences, and they were pretty hairy sequences. We were shooting. And of course we had to make sure everybody was covered and safe and all that kind of stuff. But they were fun. Getting Raw to tie the knot. Gary Wheeler and I, Gary was running the projection unit backstage. Raw's a city boy. He says, "Look, I'm a city boy." He's there in full costume, you know. And I couldn't get him to tie the knot right. And of course, even though we had Jason Brown, our side character, he was fully harnessed up and everything. There was no way he was going to get hurt, but he was still a little apprehensive about going down this rope that Charlie tied. So we took, I don't know how many takes. I think, Craig, you were up there. How many takes did we take to get that? Probably.
It was a while.
But he was great about it. He says, "Look, I'm a city boy, and here he looks like the toughest guy in the world." But we finally got the rope tied, to our satisfaction, anyway. Any other questions? I can't say again too much how much I appreciate you guys showing up. We've shown this to roughly 1,000 people so far. We wanted to save the Anne Arundel County screening for a large number of people, and it actually happened, even though it's raining and snowing and things like that. Tom?
How many optical effects are in the film, and how many stunts are enhanced by the opticals?
Well, there aren't any optical effects per se, digital effects.
All right.
The optical went away a while back. That would get the optical trimmer. So there were at least 100, maybe 200
But not the stunts, right?
visual effects. The stunts were
The falling from the barn.
Stunts on the rocks at the end there. All those guys were wired up, and in some cases it was Rachel doing some of them, Sue, and in other cases it was one of the stunt women. But Cy did most of or Jason did most of that climbing down the rock on his own. I think he did all of it, actually.
What about the guy who fell out of a barn?
That was Mark, he's Mark Mosier. He's one of the stunt guys. And he actually fell into a bag of, an airbag and some cardboard boxes. And we cut all that away, and I had him throw himself onto the ground from about a foot up. And we cut the two together with a little animation of his going down. Same thing with the horse running over him. We didn't really know.
I'd never seen that before in the film, and I wanted to do it, and Craig says, "Yeah, I think we can do that." So we had Mark roll around on the ground, and Craig cut the horse coming in over top of him, and I swear, you look at it frame by frame, and you cannot tell. I was amazed when Craig sent me the footage to that. He just, he emailed me the footage, and I couldn't believe how good it looked. Because
I have some video if any of you want to look at that when we're done talking. It's they're 10 second, 15 second clips. It's not a lot, but it shows some of the making of including the train sequence and that mountain in the back and everything. So if you want
the train is 100% digital.
Here.
The train is all digital. It's all Craig's creation. When we first were talking about doing the film, I didn't need a train. I had a stagecoach, And Craig said, "I want to do a train." I said, "I'll go ahead and do a train." And so Craig spent all this time doing his train. So that's Craig's train. It's beautiful. It works fantastic. And actually, if you come to a theater to see the film, what you saw here today was an earlier cut of the film. If you come to a theater where we use our fancy DCP hard drive, you will see actually another train when he drags this guy here, this nice smarmy so-and-so here, drags him to the railroad track. Instead of seeing open land, we actually see the train coming to complete the whack. Right. So if you see it offered locally here at the regular theater, and you want to see another one of Craig's creations, it's here. Anything else?
One more question. How did you arrive at the casting of Margaret?
How did I?
Casting Margaret?
Why do I?
How did you arrive?
Oh, how did I arrive at the casting?
Yes.
Of Margaret? The curious thing is that Margaret lives right next door to me. We did a lot of auditioning, and then I said, "Oh, Don, come on down." I worked with Don before on stage, not on stage, but on, I hate being on stage, but LaDon, on the other hand, is very proficient at being on stage. So we.
What about LaDon?
So, at any rate, brought LaDon in. She did a beautiful audition, and I knew right away that she was my Maggie. Yeah. It's curious what you have living next door, you know? And that's LaDon riding the horse at the end of the film.
I want to say that I was very proud of Don, because a lot of people you teach, you hope to teach to ride, and I have to say LaDon and Aaron really gave it their all, and LaDon pulled off that ending. I tell you, I was thumbs up when that helicopter flew over her, and I was just jumping for glee, because you know, that's a scary thing to do all by yourself.
I had good guidance, I did. Good teachers.
They did great. My female riders really did good.
They really, yeah, absolutely. We had some stunt doubles for some of the more, from some of the crazier scenes.
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah. They didn't have to do well. I think Aaron needed some help. There was some of Aaron had some stunt riders there.
Well, just about everybody gets doubled. In
Yeah,
fact,
right.
where's Bob? Bob Brown?
Yeah, let's see
Bob
what
Brown, if you would have seen, Bob was actually in LaDon's costume with a wig that looked like LaDon's hair. Of course, when he turned toward the camera, his mustache came it all away. But we used for some of the sequences that I would not allow anybody to, except for somebody who's an experienced rider, to do. And Pat doubled for
Aaron
when we have the horse race sequence, and we have a couple of other people involved as well, depending on where we were shooting that sequence. So we had doubles all over the place. You can't risk hurting people that have to be on the screen. The stunt people, if they happen to get hurt.
Just your wives and your friends.
Right, so you use your wife and your buddy. Well, I did some of the riding too. I did it too.
You chased me. Wayne chased me.
With a GoPro camera in my hand. No less. Any other questions before we shut down here? I definitely want to thank Belinda and Mary and Nicole and the whole Chesapeake Art Center crew. They were fantastic. And just be looking out for us. We're going to be, we'll probably have a run of shows somewhere at the new Marley Station theaters when they open up. We're negotiating with them right now, so we'll see what's going to happen. Anything else?
Are you handling all of your own marketing and as you say, we're negotiating with them right now?
As of right now, our goal is to hold this thing as close to us as we can, not create DVDs or Blu-rays or anything like that, because we're hoping to get distribution. So I can, we had a lot of very generous people who came on board for this project, and I hope to make sure that they get their generosity rewarded here. We are handling it. Jill Ryan Gray here is the assistant director as well as post-production supervisor. She's created so much work, so much. Some of the things you've created are what, Jill? You've done
Well, during the thing, I did the opening credits, or at least I set them up, but and then the video you saw today at the slideshow. But then, right now, my job is to kind of contact people and contact theaters and see, what arrangements we can make, and then I put them in touch with Wayne usually, and he usually drives home the deal, and then we set it up from there.
We're going to continue to show this film in various theaters for the next few months in hopes of coming up with a distribution deal that is worthy, we think. Distribution deals can be gotten, direct-to-DVD things, but there's really not any money in it, from our experience anyway.
What's the next film, Wayne?
Next film?
Yeah.
I don't know that we have a next film. We were talking, there's Connie. Connie. Connie's we've been talking. You want to say something about your?
Go ahead.
Connie,
show.
we've been talking about not a Western, and I don't know whether I can exist in a non-period society or not, but there's a film called The Driver that Connie Lamoth has been involved with, that we've vetted it up to a point. We've got the script broken down, figured out what it's going to cost. It's just a matter of seeing if we can.
It's a mob film.
It's a mob film, right? It's a mob film. So I get to work in baseball bats again. Anything else? Questions? Saw a hand back here, but too much.
Pictures will get posted to Facebook.
I hate social media. Not that I hate it, I don't know how to do it. All right.
I want to say, for anyone who's interested, you're welcome to come over, look at the guns, you're welcome to handle the guns, just don't manipulate the actions, please. And I can tell you all about any of them, where they were used in film, and whether they're a replica or a genuine original, which quite a few are. So if anyone's interested, come on over, I'm not going to pack them right up.
Last thing, I want to thank the actors who showed up today. Some of them traveled quite a distance to be here with half a costume, which we got the rest of it. Again, something like this doesn't happen without a huge number of people who say, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. I'll take my time and money and go ahead and make it happen. So thank you all for showing up, and I want to thank these guys here who've been just, friends for life.
Thank you, Wayne.